much for making it out for this panel. Really appreciate it. We're going to get started in just a minute here. And I'm going to take the next minute too to just tell you a little bit about GreenHome and Fujitsu. So GreenHome is a all-volunteer organization. Been around for over 20 years. We put on these forums every month, every other month or so. We also have our career workshops that happen almost every month. And we have a tour component as well. And I just want to mention our next event is going to be next Friday and is the Passive House Tour at Sendero Verde next Friday. So check out our LinkedIn and our social posts. Try to get tickets to that. It'll be really fun. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much time here. I want to introduce Jimmy Costello, our moderator today. Thank you for being here, Jimmy. Thank you for organizing this. This event is also in partnership with Out in Climate. Jimmy's going to say a word about Out in Climate as well.
Sure. Yeah.
And just one more thank you to Fujitsu for lending this space to us. Really appreciate that. So thank you, Fujitsu, and the floor is yours, Jimmy. Thank you.
Also, anyone sitting in the back, we're going to be talking for an hour, and I'm not known for my booming voice, so come up and take a seat up here if you're comfortable with that. We don't have a microphone today, so I would recommend that you sit a little closer. Cool. First things first, everyone, my name is Jimmy. You can use any pronouns in reference to me. Nice to see all of you. This was kind of like my little brainchild, so it's wacky that it's all coming together. Many thanks to Fujitsu for hosting us. This is a gorgeous space. If you haven't stepped outside, please do. The view is unbelievable. A little bit of housekeeping. Just the bathrooms are over there. You're welcome to use them. And just let us know if you can't hear us. You can kind of tap your ear, and I'll know to sound a little bit more like I'm yelling at you. All right, so please take a seat. Come on down. So I just feel like I'm up here with my girls, honestly. These are people that I'm already really, really friendly with. So I asked everyone to do an intro not based on their job title or where they work, but a metric or something that they're really proud of. So for example, mine would be, my name is Jimmy, any pronouns, and I have done informational interviews with more than 60 sustainability professionals. It's been my favorite way to network, and it's kind of like the seed that started this event. So Miriam.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Miriam. I use she, her pronouns. A metric. This is my second career. I transitioned about 8 years ago, and it's very exciting.
Love that. Hi everyone, I'm Celeste. I use she, they pronouns, and this is also my second career. I transitioned about 10 years ago, and a fun metric around that is I taught the Master Composter program, and I think I trained probably about 30 or 40 New Yorkers in composting over the past however many years. Okay. I don't do that anymore.
Including me?
Yeah, including this one.
My name is Laura, she, her pronouns, and I think this is still my first career. I've transitioned from being a consultant in the waste management, zero waste space to building waste management software. So the day-to-day is very different, but it is what it is. The software that we're building, the metric, I guess, would be that we have about 600 sites on our platform right now, which is fun and growing.
Cool. So I wanted to kick off getting to know a little bit more about the people in the room. First things first, I'm raising my hand because I learned about this from the Out in Climate promo, whatever it might have been. Cool. Hi. I'm raising my hand because I learned about this via GreenHome. Okay. And then I'm raising my hand because there was some other way, like a LinkedIn post, like one of my many, many LinkedIn posts or something else. Okay, cool. Newsletter or LinkedIn? LinkedIn. Okay. My posts were. Okay, and then I'm putting one finger up because I've heard the word circularity, but I really don't know what it means. I'm putting two fingers up because I've heard it before and I know a thing or two about it, but it's not something I do for my job. Okay, you are our target audience for the event. I'm putting 3 fingers up because I know the term zero waste, circularity, MRF. I work in this maybe full time. I know a lot about this. Okay, not intimidating at all. Cool. So I'm happy to hear that, and I'm happy to hear we have people from different sources and at different levels. Again, just a little bit of like background on this. Essentially, all throughout my career, I've been obsessive, one might say, about interviewing other people. They've been incredibly insightful. If you know me, you might have received a LinkedIn message. I've got it down to exactly 160 characters, requesting a time and telling you my email address so I can have an informational interview with you. A lot of the questions that I'll ask today are either inspired by Adrian, who is from Out in Climate. He was a great moderator when I saw him, or they're pulled from my own informational interviews. And I think I've had one with most people up here already, other than Miriam's just my neighbor, so we chat anyways. Okay, so I'll get right to the questions, and then know that we'll have Q&A at the end. I need to pull up my other note. All right, so the first one is sort of like a definition. In the field of zero waste, which is not really one field, there are 2 kind of main terms that we hear. The first is zero waste, and then the other one is circular economy. So the first question for our panelists is, how do you differentiate between those 2?
Am I started?
If you want. I can start.
Sure. Yeah, we can go down and then ping pong back.
Oh, okay. Zero, so my definitions of both these terms?
Or how do you separate
Right.
them?
I think right now I separate them as zero waste being more like the people who are talking about an individual lifestyle and making lifestyle choices based on how much they consume or produce and how they dispose of waste. And circular economy is more on a larger scale, how we can, produce materials and then recycle them and put them back into the supply chain, basically.
So for you, the main thing is the scale.
The main thing in the scale, I think with zero waste is it's like a simple way to get people kind of hooked, but then it also has its like downside. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I sort of think of it as like zero waste is like part of how we get to a fully circular economy in a way. Like you think about like the economy, like just if we take like the word circular out of it, obviously that's like a really big thing that has all these different like inputs and outputs and different pieces that are a part of it, right? And when we think circular, it's everything from like the original extraction to the reuse systems to the recycling to all these different pieces of it. And I kind of think of zero waste as like one of these really important elements that has to be a part of that conversation in order to get to that full transition away from the linear economy to the circular economy. So it's kind of like a means to, one of the strategies to get there, I would say. That's how I think about it.
Going last was a bad choice.
You are allowed to say they hit the nail on the head.
I get so for me, zero waste is like striving for excellence.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of think about it, and like there's certifications around it, and like that's where we all need to strive for. And then on the circular economy side, I think of like definitions I think we've gotten to, but like we're kind of like just at the beginning of this, and there's such an opportunity to change the way that we think about everything related to it. And so those are the things that kind of jump out to me on those 2 definitions.
Yeah, I like that. I would say zero waste kind of feels like an aspirational goal, right? Like, I mean, even though there are a lot of people and companies, I mean, I work for a zero waste certification program, so it's like, obviously I'm very invested in the term zero waste, but like, it is for most of us, like, aspirational. And so it's something to like work towards.
One thing that I wanted to find also, Celeste, you talked about the linear versus the circular economy. If you clicked on the link for the event, I'm assuming you might have an inkling of what it means, but maybe Celeste, could you just separate linear versus circular economy?
Sure. So if you think about linear, that's basically the system we have now, right? Like we extract resources from nature, we make them into products, we use those products, we dispose of those products, and when we dispose of them, for the most part, they become some form of like pollution or waste. that's a very straight line. So then, you know, the next visual is just to think about it if it was this better system, right? Where it's like, sure, maybe we're still originally, those products have been extracted from somewhere. However, then not only are we recycling them, but first maybe we're reusing them, or we are repairing them, or we are, you know, reducing that material to begin with, and then we're only making things out of products that can be recycled in the first place, and so we're not falling into this system of having to re-extract materials from nature, and then we're able to bring them back into the economic equation. So it's like that.
Cool, thanks. So,
Yeah, no, that's
Please,
great.
please.
I would just add that an example from nature is compost.
Yes.
Right, so you have the products and then it goes back into the soil. So that's an example from nature that we are trying to reproduce it as humans.
I've heard so much about composting. I would love to try it one day. So our next question is an opportunity to highlight something that you're really excited about. And Laura, you can start, don't worry. So our question is, tell us about your most exciting project or case study. It might be from your work. You're twisting. It might be from your work, or it might be something that you read about recently. What is your most exciting case study or project, and what makes it so exciting to you?
Cool, thanks. So in the software, we're about to launch a tenant login. So tenants within a building will be able to log into the platform and see their waste metrics that are kind of prorated based on square footage. I'm really excited about it because we've already been delivering this data in like PDF form in a monthly basis. Thank you, William. But like, I don't want PDFs in my email anymore that don't track the one from the month before or the upcoming month. Like, that just feels like we can do better. And that's the first step towards the tenant wanting to engage more with waste because they are seeing it. So we have tenants that are asking for it, and then eventually we're just going to shove it down every tenant's throat so that they can start by seeing where they compare to other tenants within that building, and then we can start to offer them resources for doing better. So we will roll this out slowly, and we will learn a lot along the way, but it's the generators, right, that stand in front of the bin and make that decision. And if the building wants to reduce its waste, then we have to get to those people. We won't get to all of them, but we have to start to get to some of them. And we're seeing a major gap in waste education when you onboard into a new job into a large office building. So we're trying to change that.
I mentioned I worked for a zero waste certification program. One of the projects that I'm working with is here in New York. I'm just going to go ahead and plug them because I think they're great. Who here has heard of Battery Park? Yeah, okay, so have you been to Battery Park and like done a tour? A couple of you, not many. Okay, well you should. Battery Park is doing really amazing work. They're such an incredible like New York City resource and neighborhood. They have a beautiful open park space. They do a lot of stuff to engage with the public, and they do a lot of stuff with zero waste. They're one of our actually like only certified projects in the 5 boroughs, Manhattan specifically. And they have just like really cool innovative stuff that they're doing. I mean, they like reuse, like every time there's a bench or a picnic table that gets broken, they have a really awesome like repair and reuse process that they go through, so they're like never buying new. They have, okay, I'm a dog owner, and the dog poop situation in New York City, y'all, oh my God, it's like so
dog
brutal.
waste.
Yes, but so Battery Park, as far as I know, it's the only dog poop composting system that I've ever heard of, I think. I've never seen it, at least at this scale. I mean, maybe in somebody's backyard, sure, but like, I've never seen it at this scale. Just so you know, it's very actively frowned upon to put dog waste or really any pet waste in pretty much any other composting system, so don't do that. But at Battery Park, you can, and they have it like really dialed in terms of their system. It gets up to these like super high speeds, temperatures, super high temperatures, and yeah, they have like compost flying around. Really bad image actually, but it's just really cool. And then they have like a, they test it and then they use it in like safe ways, and it's just really awesome. And they're just very passionate about the work that they do. It's a really great example of the circular economy in New York City, and I highly recommend checking it out.
I guess I'm going to go into more metrics, so I was keeping them for this question. So I work for New York City Public Schools as the Waste Operations Manager within the Office of Energy and Sustainability. I started 9 months ago. We have 1,300 buildings as DOE owned, and they're all supposed to be composting. And so my job, and I'm very excited, this is like the whole project of my job, I guess, but I'm very excited about it, is keeping the schools composting and re-engaging these schools who might have fallen off, the wagon during COVID or for other reasons, and kind of keep them going for this year and the next years to come. And this year, we've enrolled the last cohort of schools that didn't have access to curbside composting, so now they all have access to curbside composting. The very exciting thing about some boroughs, for example, mostly Staten Island, is that what is collected on Staten Island is actually getting composted on site. And that is something that I'm trying to convey to everyone, how excited I am about it, because it shows a circular economy, but also creating these resources at the local level. So that's kind of my big project this year.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Miriam. Yeah, I had a feeling you might crush it in that job. Okay, so our next question is kind of like the magic wand, right? There are a ton, and I truly mean a ton, a metric ton, of issues and roadblocks. We have 4 people up here who are excited and who want to make the world look different, but we are far from the only 4 people making decisions in the world. So if you had a magic wand, what is one problem that you would fix? It might be something that's immediately in front of you. It might be something that is at the large industrial scale. It might be an infrastructure issue. It might be a socioeconomic issue. What is the one thing that you would change if you could change anything, and why would you pick that one thing? Maybe Celeste.
I'm going first.
Yeah, only fair.
I'm gonna refund the New York City compost project. Come on. What are we doing? Yeah, I would though. Yeah. Should I give any context on that or just pass it on?
No, I don't know if you should give context. I'm well aware of what's happening.
Laura's like, what happened to the compost project?
I can go next. I would magically have scales and GPS tracking on all garbage trucks, which they're doing in other countries. So I don't understand why we can't have it here.
That's a good one.
But that's, the transparency is so important.
Tell me more.
So, are there any commercial waste haulers in the room?
Please rise.
Okay. Is this going public, this video? Okay, never mind. The challenge is that there's, like, garbage trucks operate at night on the commercial side, and those contracts are all private. So in New York City on the residential side, the processors of that material fought really hard for those contracts, and they're held to a higher standard. On the commercial side, there's just less of that. Who here has heard of commercial waste zones? That's most people. Very quickly, New York City passed legislation in 2019 to overhaul the commercial waste industry in New York City. It's called franchising. It's happening in other cities, and you could argue that they're doing it as a part of the decarbonization effort, because every night garbage trucks go out. It's a free market, so they just leapfrog over each other. 5 different companies could service one block. It makes no sense. And the ultimate goal is to bring more transparency, to incentivize reduction, because composting and recycling will be cheaper than the disposal of trash, and to track the material more, and hold the haulers more accountable for what's happening. So if on top of that, we could actually have scales that say how much you collected from this building versus this building by waste stream, there's even more potential transparency. So that's the one part. But
What could you do with that data?
well, one, if you could hold the haulers accountable. Like, for one, every night, if you don't see that 3 trucks came to your building, problem, right? And I'm sorry, I'm generalizing for trash, recycling, and compost. And often we hear that they don't send 3 trucks even though they're contractually obligated to. So that's a challenge. And then the other piece is that you could incentivize reduction. You could have real-time data that says what your diversion is, minus the contamination factor, which takes a little bit more calculation. But that would allow for businesses to compete against one another. It would allow for the city to regulate, that they have to aim for something better than nothing, which is where we're at right now. And way more. Yeah.
Also, as somebody who works with those metrics on almost a daily basis, some of them do have a lot of accuracy and some really don't. It's really just a hit or miss. Some people give you a lot of information, sometimes we picked up the stuff. That's all the information we're getting. That's it, goodbye, thank you.
Where does it go?
Some people, that's the thing, you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's what are you supposed to tell the clients?
Yeah.
It's you don't have any really follow-up information to give them because they're not really held to any standard for how much information they're releasing, how they're presenting it, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree.
Here.
Yeah, I think I would just fast forward us all. We're still in 2024, but we are in a circular economy, and we're talking about waste reduction, and we've forgotten about recycling, which is just to get us there. And I want recycling to be behind us, as to be getting in. And I know it's little by little, but we don't have much time left. We are there in 2024 in the circular economy.
Yeah. I had a feeling someone would take the words out of my mouth, and you did. And I'll just interject to say the way that I often put recycling in comparison to what we need is that is inches. We need 10 miles.
Yeah. Can I ask if people know about the waste hierarchy, and
Sure.
Does anybody not know about the waste hierarchy? A couple of you. Okay, so the idea with the waste hierarchy is that you can think of a food pyramid, but upside down. So it's an upside down triangle. And at the top, we're starting with the best ways to keep materials in their useful life for as long as possible. So you remember the adage, reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, as a society and a culture, we really now just pretty much focus on recycling, right? That's the thing that kind of allows business as usual, frankly, and so that's why I think that's why we put so much effort and emphasis behind it. But with the zero waste hierarchy, we're really reprioritizing. So we're starting with the things like redesigning or remanufacturing or repairing, then we're moving down into reduction and reuse, things that again, those materials, but they're staying in their life for as long as possible. Those are called upstream solutions, which basically means the prevention of waste. And then we move down into sort of the less desirable, which is recycling, unfortunately composting, even though I love composting, but it is in the lower half. And then anaerobic digestion, incineration, waste to energy, landfill, and pollution at the bottom. So all of those bottom tiers, those are often referred to as downstream solutions, which is the management of waste. So we're thinking about prevention first, then management. So we really focus on the bottom tier. We really need to move up towards away from the inches and towards the miles or whatever you used. So, yeah.
All right, so a little bit of the elephant in the room. We've got 4 white people on the panel. Infamously, environmentalism is known for that issue. This is an opportunity to talk about DEIJ, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice in many forms. If you want, you can talk about something you aspire to do, or you can uplift something that you recently saw that was exciting.
I can start. So within our office, we started including environmental justice as a framework within all of our programming. It's hard, I'm not gonna lie. It's very hard to we have working groups to kind of get it going, where is this going? And we need the help of other offices to kind of get the hang of it as well. But this is something that we're actively working on. And the thing I was mentioning before, the example of, even just Staten Island and the place-based learning and connecting to the environment, there's a lot of things to be done in the city with, underserved communities, some overburdened communities with truck traffic, so mentioning, commercial waste zones, so they have too many trucks in some neighborhoods. They have air, and due to that, they have air pollution. This is all part of the environmental justice movement. So this is how we're including it by providing some place-based context for the work that we're doing right now.
So our company is really small. We're about 10 people. I guess I'm the hiring manager. But we luckily have someone that does all of our recruiting when we post a new job. And we've just basically said, you know, we want to be a diverse organization. And in the software space, that's not very common. But what I didn't know about hiring, and so thankful for this person who's helping, is that, like, yes, normally people apply for jobs, but there's also proactive sourcing and proactive going after people and, for lack of a better word, poaching them from their current jobs. And he is very good at listening to what we're trying to do and going out and looking to meet those things. So that's, I feel very selfish just talking about my job. But that's how we're trying to change that.
But that's like such an impact that you can make as
Yeah.
an individual.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so the program that I work for, True, so I'm part of a larger nonprofit, the U.S. Green Building Council. We're very mission-driven. Equity is a huge part of our mission statement and like everything that we work towards. So the program that I work for, we don't allow incineration or waste to energy as a diversion strategy. That, in an industry sense, is a bit controversial because a lot of zero waste programs include that, and a lot of companies, frankly, really want to use waste to energy as a solution because it kind of allows them to do the easy thing, but sorry for anyone that feels like it like allows them to just kind of do business as usual but feel like they're able to count it as diversion. It's kind of my feeling on it. And we had to take a stance on incineration because everything that Miriam brought up, I think, is really accurate, around the neighborhood and truck traffic and everything like that. And when you look at a map of the US and certainly in New York City, that most of the neighborhoods that have incinerators, that have transfer stations, that have like this truck traffic coming through, they're all in marginalized communities, and it's a really big problem. And if you look at the asthma rates and the compounding factors associated with these areas, it's like however many times higher, 10, 15, 20 times higher than the more wealthy white areas, and it's really problematic. And so I just I'm glad our organization, it's a small thing again, but it's that we're taking a stance on incineration. I really think that's something as an industry that we need to look at a little bit more, because I don't think it really has a place in our zero waste circular economy goals. I think it's bad for people, it's bad for the environment, it's certainly not supportive of a just transition, and I think we could do better. Sorry, I don't know, was I supposed to say something? I thought we could do better. I forgot what the question was.
You're so good. There's one example that you want to highlight. Around
Yes,
that,
I'll
which
highlight that.
I think
Great.
you got it perfect.
Cool.
So would you advocate, you wouldn't necessarily advocate for landfills over waste to energy?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah,
It's hard to sit here and basically be like, we don't want either of them.
Yeah,
But it's
I
we
know.
can't just turn the tap off like that. We have to work towards it.
We do.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the thing that I would say is it's no, I don't want either. Yes, I realize that's not realistic, but I think that the problem that I see is that we're trying to pretend like the one is better. And I think I want to stop pretending like the one is better, and let's just acknowledge that landfill and incineration, they're both problematic.
Yeah.
And let's not put incineration and waste to energy in this bucket that makes it look like it's oh, we're saving the world with this. Because I do see that, and I think that's the part where I'm oh no, and I get pushback. I go to conferences and talk about my program, and I have these people in the room get so upset with me because I don't include incineration or waste to energy in our diversion numbers, and they come and yell at me afterwards, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna get behind this. It's not okay.
Yeah, we're
So.
building that into the platform too. If you calculated it out, that's fine. But the second that data comes into us, that is going straight to
Right.
non-diversion.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yes, I know it exists. No, I don't think we shoid promote it.
For those that don't know, waste to energy is, put simply, burning trash and then harvesting some of the fumes or the heat, and then saying that that's an efficient form of recycling. You can infer how we might feel about that idea. Just to add a little bit, NIMBYism is a pervasive issue that we have seen for centuries and centuries, and the waste infrastructure is just one of the many ways that low-income people, people of color have been disenfranchised time and time again, and they all cross on top of one another. So the waste infrastructure that we have is not an accident.
That's not, yeah.
Cool. So my last question comes from my informational interviews. This is usually the last one that I ask, so some of you have already gotten the question. What is one piece of advice that you wish someone had told you earlier in your career? Another way to ask this is you have a college grad, right? They just graduated. It's like May 15th, May 16th is the interview, and they're like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about zero waste and the circular economy, and they're super excited, and you have your little informational interview. What is one thing that you would tell them?
You want me to go first? Yeah, I mean, I think when I started my career, and I don't know if this has as much to specifically do with the circular economy, but I think when I started my career, I think I was like, I studied architecture, and everything that I learned in architecture school was like, go be an architect. And so I was like, okay. But then I didn't actually really like being an architect, just me personally. But I think like it was this feeling of needing to have it all figured out at a really young age, and like to immediately be doing something that like, I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna love it, I'm gonna make money at it, and like it's gonna hit all these boxes. And I wish somebody had told me to like experiment more. Maybe just as like a general life thing, not even career, but just like go like whatever it is. Yeah, I know. Also, like maybe go experiment more and just like find yourself in whatever way that is. Is it like queerness? Is it job related? Is it like all of these things? And just like not feel like you have to be an adult right away. Because I think that is something that at least with my maybe slightly older generation than some of you in the room, like didn't feel like there was quite as much room for that. And I hope that there is now, and if there isn't, like make room for that. Make room for like exploration and making mistakes and just like working whatever weird like random job sounds fun to you. Like that's really important, and have fun doing it.
I also want to uplift that the way that I know Celeste is we both were working at the same, although at different times, the same green building firm. We both were happy there, but we both yearned to do something that was a little bit closer to our ethos, or that felt a little bit more progressive, maybe a little bit more hands-on. And then we both made the strange decision to leave that nice Midtown office and go work at the Lower East Side Ecology Center, which was at one point in time part of the New York City Compost Project. Very scrappy, very DIY organization doing community scale composting. So when I saw her on LinkedIn, I was like, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk, girl.
True story. True story.
So you're looking at two people who did kind of like take the plunge a little bit, and it was challenging and it was scary.
Yeah.
But I think we can both say the same, that we feel really proud of the work that we're able to do now, and the only reason we can feel so happy is because there was some bravery.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's why I said this is my second career, because I like started on one track and then I did like a big reversal like way later than maybe my parents would have preferred, right? But I'm here and it's great. Yeah.
I can piggyback off of that. Now I say like, well, like when I was in college, there weren't sustainability programs. There was like, I heard that someone took like a waste management course, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I guess I have been lucky enough to just like start learning about the space that I was interested in. Like I learned what composting was when I was like 26. And some people still don't know what it is, so I guess that's still early. But I'm not going to sit here and advocate for like knowing what you want in college, because I want to do in college, because I had no idea what I wanted to do in college. And I also didn't like going to school. So I found something that I thought was interesting, and I tried it. And I think we're still at the very beginning of proper waste management. Like, so I don't want to say that like everything out there is like solved. Like there's still a lot to figure out. So I'm more of like a learn on the job type of person. And second, what Celeste says, is just try what you're drawn to. It took me a couple years to get there.
I would add that if you work in a field that you're passionate about, like I think we all are,
Speak for yourself.
Okay. I thought we were all passionate here, but okay. I'm the only like trash lady on this panel, I guess. We all are, right? When I'm passionate about something, then I'll have a tendency to overdo it. And also I'll have a tendency to say, yeah, sure, I'll do it for cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a lesson learned for myself, but also, you know, anyone who wants to hear it, it's not because you're passionate that you should get paid lower or you should do way more. I would say slow and steady wins the race. I would also say working in sustainability right now, I mean, I wished I worked in circular economy, but I'm still in sustainability, or what we call it now. We think about regenerating all the systems except all of them. So yeah, think about regenerating yourself as well.
That's good.
Think about that, because otherwise you're not gonna last, and then burnout is a real thing.
There's also there's so much money in garbage.
Yes.
We spend a lot of money on garbage. So there is opportunity, and I would second what you said, which is don't cut your hourly just because you're passionate. And apologize because I haven't read them all, but on the True Zero Waste site, they have case studies, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the focus of those case studies is cost savings. That's a lot of them at least. And so even though I haven't read them all, I still say it all the time, you're not going to see it on day one, right? Your waste journey is a marathon, it's not a sprint. But if you have people that are working towards it over time, there will be the cost savings. Everything from, the labor, disposal, all of it. It's really hard to quantify because waste touches everything in an operation. So there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, and just also, now I'm thinking about this, but the circular economy, sustainability, there's just so many cool and weird jobs out there that I never would have thought of when I was coming out of school. All these really unique and interesting things that you can do. And so I think if you are creative and you do have a mind for it and an excitement around it, just spend some time just digging around and seeing what's out there, because it's really actually frankly surprising. I think when I see some of these job postings, I'm like, that's a job? Cool, great, go get it, person, so.
Yeah. Calling out a couple things that I heard that I totally agree with. One, that it's just starting. It's just starting. You were referencing that, and I feel the exact same way. I feel grateful to be in the industry so young, partially because I'm happy with my career as it is, but also partially because I want to uplift and amplify it, and I want to build diverse teams, and I want to hire other people and get them excited as well. And also just amplifying two of the things that I heard coming together. There is a ton of money in waste. People do not realize how much there is, and at least from my experience, the people in this room who are coming at it from this more ethical, environmental, sustainability lens, we often view it, like Miriam was saying, as something that you have to do as a volunteer on the weekend, or something that you have to do at a nonprofit with no retirement funds. But in reality, as those two things come together, as the circular economy grows, and as more people who are in this room get excited and get amplified and actually get into the right rooms, then there is so much opportunity to bring some of that money from this massive financial pool that is the waste industry, and to uplift positions that actually bring the ethos in at scale. So it's just a start. Okay. My little inspirational speech. All right, so we do have some time now for your Q&As. I'm going to call it roughly 10 minutes for that. So if you got a question, go for it, and just please do speak loudly.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi.
Call me compost. So, when we talk about the extraction of materials, and then the ultimate disposition of these materials, most of them, we know there are ways to deal with them. So paper, cardboard, there are ways. Metal, ultimately recyclable. Food, composting, we know that. Glass, problematic, but you can do it. But then there's this giant area, plastics. So I'm just wondering what each of you think, is the direction that we could possibly go in to solve that morass.
Can you reword the sentence? I didn't totally follow.
What do we do with plastics?
Okay, what the heck do we do with plastic?
You go.
Yeah.
You go.
Suddenly no one wants
I
to go
would say
first.
that's what we're talking about tonight is circular economy, because we want to redesign, like circular economy is about the conception of like starting from even thinking about the product. How am I going to make it so the product returns to like the company that makes it or to a system that will reuse it, and then also repairing. That's what I was saying also about waste reduction. It's like we're like, okay, we have all these plastics right now. Yeah, no, we can't do anything about that. Like it's done. Like they're here, right? So can we? Well, I think there is also a lot of research about like how do we recycle the plastics that are here now, but also like how do we shift from the creation of a product, and how do we force literally companies to do that, because that's where we need to go in my mind.
Okay, so I have a couple thoughts on it. So to add to what you said, because it's all very accurate, the turning off the faucet. Some plastics are actually incredibly recyclable. Like there are a lot of plastics out there that, like water bottles, like there's certain, like the laundry jugs, like there's some like kind of the heavier, heftier plastics too, the ones that are used for like medical equipment and stuff like that. Like there are some plastics out there that are legitimately like very recyclable. There are a lot of other plastics that we are not doing a very good job with. So we need to do a better job with policy, with production, with all of these things, of focusing on only producing things with the plastics that are easily recyclable and turning that tap off of the ones that are not. That's not going to happen overnight. It's a very long process. One of the things that's really going to help with that, I hope, I think, I want, is something called EPR, or Extended Producer Responsibility, which is basically some states have already passed legislation around this. New York is trying, very arduously trying to do so. Basically, the concept behind EPR is that right now, the way our system works is that essentially like taxpayers and municipalities are paying for the recycling system. And there's little to no responsibility on the part of the producers, AKA like the Cokes, the Pepsis, the people that are, the companies I should say, the companies that are making the things that are ending up in our hand. This isn't plastic. Aluminum is very recyclable.
I'm trying my best to get glass.
So EPR is basically moving away from the current model that we have towards a system where the producers, the corporations, are going to have a much higher level of accountability, financial responsibility, and more to make sure that they are the ones that are actually investing in it. So they will now have more like reason to make products that are recyclable, because right now they have no incentive to do it. They're not paying for it. They don't care. They're just putting out like the cheapest, easiest possible thing, right? Those like film plastics, those things that are like multi-layered, that like you like there's no way to recycle those things right now. I mean, some people say there are, but not really. Not easily accessible to the majority of people in this country, in this world. So EPR I think is going to help. That's a big one. I kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah, I think that's my main point that I want to say.
EPR is more than a train of thought. EPR is like 18 trains. So
yeah, it is. It's a huge topic, and if you want to talk about it, I mean, there's so much information online about it, so I definitely like read into that a lot, but I do think that specifically is going to really help with this issue, and there's also a million other things that we can do.
If you're excited about EPR, California, as per usual, is the place to look. That's actually something that Celeste had recommended to me. Don't look at what the federal government is doing, look at what California is doing. And I just met someone who's doing a ton of, in particular, their EPR policy is the most progressive and the most like strategically written to prevent someone from circumventing it.
Also Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Vermont, Maine, yeah, so it's happening, New York's next.
Just as an example, in Canada there's an EPR policy, and the long story short is that each material type has a cost associated with it, a fraction of a cent. But if you are the one bringing that in to your store and then kind of being that first releaser of that into that municipality, you pay per like ounce of it. And so the higher, plastics are a higher cost than aluminum, and that's going to change the upstream way that producers make products. Like if they're like, I have to pay for more of it in this material, I'm incentivized now to change that material.
And I will say, it like even in the states where we don't have EPR, I still think it's actually making an impact, because if you look at a lot of the climate goals that are associated with these large corporations, they're responding to that. And they're making commitments and making goals and trying to suddenly start sourcing materials based off of what they're anticipating is what they'll need to do in the future. I don't know that there's necessarily like here in New York yet, well, maybe to some degree, but like these huge investments in recycling infrastructure, like that I think will have to happen. But I do even just see in my work, like some of the commitments and some of the folks that I'm talking to, they're like, oh yeah, we've totally changed our like material sourcing plan because we know in the next like 5 years, like we're basically gonna have to pay for it. So it's good, it's happening, it's cool.
More questions? I saw yours first, sorry. We'll be here all night, don't worry.
So question primarily for the career changer, the self-identified career changer, but for anybody. So as someone who is not freshly out of college, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
Yes.
and has years of work experience in several different areas, do you have advice for switching into this industry? Because I find that when I'm looking at a lot of jobs online, it's like 10 years experience in waste management. It's like, well, I don't have that. And I know this is not, it's an issue in a lot of industries, but any advice on getting into this? Is it like more education? Is volunteering? How?
Get something on your resume that's waste related.
Become a true advisor.
Yeah.
It does help.
That's a great
It did
suggestion.
help. It did help.
I think just one course could probably help. I mean, I had a full laid out plan for my thing, but I
Fully
went
plan for what?
for my career transition. Like I went back to get a master's in sustainable development, and then I started from the bottom up, from nonprofit to city agency. This was the plan. This worked, but you never know. I think there are a lot of skills that you have now that can be transferred over. So you have to think about your hard skills. Because in the end, waste management is not, it's the knowledge that you're missing maybe from the jobs, right? So how do you get that knowledge? You can get that knowledge pretty fast.
Yeah.
Like on your own, just take one course and you do the rest on your own. But look at the skills that you can transfer over, because ultimately some people are looking for someone who has the professional skills to do it. Like the waste is just the added layer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is it project management? Is it writing? Is it grant writing? Like just position yourself in a way where even if it's not right, like the industry specific, like all of that transfers over. I think somebody would rather, frankly, hire someone that had all of that experience and no waste experience than like if you knew about waste but you like didn't know how to like write an email. You know what I mean? So it's like yeah, I think you probably.
You know how to write an email?
I feel better in life if I did know how to. We'd all be in a better place.
I'm actually only applying to jobs with no emails involved.
I would add networking events as well. Jimmy is an expert in networking, and he's doing it.
Yeah, I feel really compelled to answer this. I know I'm not technically a speaker, and I wrote down all my thoughts because that's what I do. First things first, I really like the advice of just getting something on. It is definitely common and definitely possible if you want to switch into waste to start just staffing waste audits.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
Start
you. Some of the,
staffing
fuzzy
just to
sounds.
staff a waste audit. That's a good way to literally get your hands dirty and to kind of like gain some street cred a little bit. It's great because you can do those in the evening. They're part-time. They usually pay okay, so that's a good place to start. And also, if you get lucky, sometimes people won't realize that you're per diem, so they think that you're working at that job even though you just work with the waste audit like maybe once a month. Yeah, exactly. You will. For context, I was with the New York City Compost Project. I was laid off 4 months ago, and I recently found a job that I'm like, no job is perfect, but I'm very happy with. So I feel like this is right for me. My second one is informational interviews. They are the most powerful tool that I've had in my entire career. I would not go to grad school if it wasn't, like, grad school is only for the paper at this point. It's only to get the degree, but the actual knowledge that I have learned from getting 30 minutes of an impressive professional's time and asking them the right questions, which I posted on my LinkedIn if you want them. I use the same 5 questions for everyone. I make notes, and that has been genuinely, I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of the industry, more so than I think people who have certain degrees. And I don't mean to toot my own horn, but genuinely, this is a powerful tool that I just cannot recommend more than enough. I feel like it's revolutionized my career. And I have one more thing to add. Don't lose hope. It's really hard. I just went through it, and it can be really, really emotionally challenging to be rejected so many times. But know that it does exist. And I actually really want to applaud Celeste, who on like January 2nd, when I had just lost my job, told me the exact same advice. And like on the difficult days, I would hear her voice being like, I know that it's out there, you are going to be paid well, you are going to make an impact, and you are going to be respected. So it's not common, it's not easy, but you can have it.
My question was, what were the 5 questions?
I'll share them later.
Okay.
They're on my LinkedIn from like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
We can take 1, maybe 2 more questions.
Yeah, it was just we briefly mentioned like behavioral change for just like general consumer, and I guess I just was gonna open the floor to that. Like, it's really hard to get someone to change their behavior, and just like would love to know your thoughts.
Can
on
you
that.
repeat the question a little bit louder?
Yeah, like how do we change people's behavior to adopt these new programs? Is it leading by example? Like how can I help my friends change their behavior and myself change mine?
I'll answer it really briefly.
Can you repeat the question? 'Cause I don't think that's.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How do you tap into behavior change? So there's like disbelief in recycling. So just talking about, like, explaining, like, this is what happens on the residential side, like this is what happens on the commercial side, and like trying to get rid of that disbelief that it doesn't exist. And then one of the things that we're guessing is that if we bring transparency to what happens to the waste within an operation, then people will be like, oh wow, this company actually thought through its waste streams, and they have a plan for each of them. And I think I'm still in like hypothesis stage, like we'll see if that works. And then basic like waste education, like there is a direct problem with generating waste that is affecting our planet. So those are the things that we focus on, but it's very hard, and I'm not a behavior change expert, so I also think it's really important to lean on the people that study that and to leverage what they know and bring it into this field.
I think we just have to make things really easy and really straightforward. I think there's some, from a behavior change theorist that I watched their webinar, they said there was something like a human being has like 3 seconds at a waste bin to make a decision around where something is going to go. So if you can't communicate that in basically 2 seconds, it's all over. And they're probably just going to put it in the trash, or they're going to put it in, they're going to contaminate something. So I just think like,
Clear is kind.
clear is kind. I love that. Yeah, we just have to make it really clear and really easy. Really clear and really easy. Which is not easy. Right?
No, I would just add that this is the hardest part. This is what takes the longest, and this is why I was like, you have to be patient. This is why I want to fast forward, because this is the hardest part, and it takes decades. I grew up in Europe, so we started a bit like a couple of decades earlier, but I think we was late here, but it takes decades, and so the fact that I know that kind of keeps me sane, I guess. But also education, and every year tell them to recycle in schools, and leading by example. Definitely it works. I've seen it for myself around me in my life. I'm not even saying anything. I'm just saying where I'm working. I'm not making everyone feel bad or anyone feel bad, but then they'll be like, I feel bad, you make me feel bad. Like, no, I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. You can do the same if you want. And I've seen some changes with the people around me, which is kind of crazy. So don't force it onto people.
Yeah, and I think also, I don't know, I mean, we've talked a lot about how like recycling is important, right? It's not like the only solution that we have, but it is part of the solution, and it is necessary. And the thing about recycling is that it does require everybody's participation to a certain degree. But yeah, if people don't believe in it, or they think that it's not working, then they're not going to participate, and that is important. And then on the other hand, there's like people that believe in it too much and like want things to be recyclable that aren't recyclable, and that's called wish cycling. So, you know, it's like a deflated soccer ball and somebody's like, this must be recyclable. So one of the things, like the tips that I always give to people when they ask questions about that is I'm like, whoever it is, because recycling rules are different everywhere, it's like sending people to their local municipal recycling webpage is like such an effective tool, because I think people go to that page, whether it's New York City, whether it's like Poughkeepsie, whether we're in New Jersey, like, and when they actually see the webpage from their municipality, like most people don't think to go to those pages, or it doesn't seem like most people think to go to those pages, and you learn so much from what, like, those local, like they've done such a good job with putting out that information and making it really clear and saying what is and isn't recyclable. Like read those, send your friends, send your family, like have them look at what their local municipality does or doesn't take, and make sure they're following the rules. That's like one of the most powerful things that we can do for recycling, is make sure we're following the rules. And it's like so hard, but like it's so important.
There's thousands of different rules. There's like 7,000 or 9,000 municipalities across this country, and they all have different rules.
They all have different rules.
This building could have a different rule than that building.
Yeah. Recycle Right New York, I'll plug, is like a really cool, it's part of a larger nonprofit, but they have a specific program focused on helping New Yorkers recycle. They have, their webpage is amazing. They put out, like, I think they have an Instagram page that's really good. So that's a really great local resource. Yeah, but there's so many.
Residential.
Yeah, it's residential, and then commercial's different. So yeah, it's a hard one.
All right, well, that is our time. There's one resource I wanted to plug earlier when we were talking about DEIJ. The U.S. Composting Council, they have a scholarship for anyone who wants to learn more about composting. Be warned, that course is not for beginners. I took it. It is 40 hours of dense information. But if you are interested in starting your own composting business, and you are a person of color, Black or Indigenous, something along those lines, they welcome you to apply. They are trying to get people to apply, and they are regularly fundraising to uplift those people in the composting community. So it's a wonderful program. I'm happy to give them some publicity for that. All right, so I have a couple more thank yous. First, I just want to say thank you again to Fujitsu for giving us this gorgeous space. We have about 30 minutes more. Please step outside now that the sun has set. We did time it with intention. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous view. Get some good pics and tag us on LinkedIn. I want to say thank you to Out in Climate. No one from Out in Climate is here. I'm maybe going to be organizing more events for them, with them. But to sit up here with a bunch of queer folk and talk about zero waste is like something I thought I would only do in my dreams. So this just feels really special for me. And Out in Climate, I wouldn't have had the idea to do this if they hadn't already done the leadership. And also I want to say in particular thank you to Adrian from their group. He is a great moderator, and I took a lot of my notes from him.
I didn't know that was a prerequisite.
What?
He didn't know it was queer. So.
And then I had this one thing where I was
Did you
like,
tell us that?
No,
I had this
I
weird
told
thing where I was
him
like,
today.
should I announce it? I don't know. But it worked out wonderfully. So it's June. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
I also want to say thank you so much to Green Home, who really, they did most of the legwork. Harris, please, massive round of applause. Harris and I think, have emailed, it might be 100 times back and forth about this event. Embarrassing number of emails that we needed to like get those seltzers into the ice, I swear. So Harris, seriously, thank you so much. Working with you has been a pleasure, and the entire Green Home crew has just delivered on the space and the promotion and the graphics, everything that we've needed to make this happen. I kind of just like came in rogue, and I was like, woo, let's do this. And they were like, oh, okay. So they really just took me under their wing and brought me into this beautiful space with a room full of people, and that's really special. So, like I said, we have about 30 more minutes in the room, and then we are going to clean up. That being said, if people want to hang out afterwards, I know 30 minutes isn't that much. It is common for Green Home people to go to Croton Harris Bar. That's the name? Croton Reservoir. Okay, I was writing this while I was talking to you, so I wrote your name down instead. So Croton Reservoir Bar. If you or someone that you know that works in the area wants to meet up with us there, I'm not promising that I'll go, but just kind of like informally. That
Way
might
to
be,
sell that, Jimmy.
I mean, I'll definitely. I mean, I'll definitely be there. No, I likely will go, and if you have more questions or you want to meet other people, and then also my last thing for you is you've got a bunch of people in the room who care about the same things as you, so talk to someone new right now, ask them a question. A couple of good starters are what's one thing that you took away from the event, and then why waste? Why are you talking about this wacky thing? You can get some very funny answers. So thank you again to all of our panelists. This has been amazing.